You would have to talk to Director Patel about that.
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't know the answer, Senator.
Yeah, you do know the answer to that.
Don't call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar.
You just said I know the answer. I said I don't know the answer.
Well,
you have to talk to
okay,
Director Patel. What I said is that investigation was closed.
If you don't know, why don't you know whether there was a tape and video?
Senator, I believe that was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General.
Do you think that it is of public interest for the people to know what happened to the 50 grand that the FBI turned over to Homan?
Did you hear what I just said? That was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. That's why I said I would not know.
It's not resolved.
A U.S. Senator just asked one simple question. Where did the money go? And the Attorney General couldn't answer. Then when pressed for evidence about election claims, again, nothing. No proof, no clarity, just deflection. This is exactly why people are fed up, because when power gets questioned, Republicans suddenly have no answers. If you believe in real accountability, hit like, subscribe, and stay to the end, because I'm about to break down how Democrats just exposed this whole thing.
States. And in Vermont, I mean, we voted Democratic, but we have a lot of good folks who voted for President Trump, and their health care is jeopardized. And there's a November 1 deadline that is coming up. And the reason I'm saying this is that I think it's important for us to try to work out together a resolution that's going to be beneficial to people you care about in Florida and voted for President Trump, and people I care about in Vermont who voted in some cases for Vice President Harris and some for President Trump. So it's not just Democrats not wanting to negotiate. And in fact, we do want to negotiate, and that's why I'd encourage the president to encourage my colleagues on the Republican side to sit down with us and try to see if we can make some progress. Another topic, with the respective voting rights in the letter that your voting rights chief sent out, we got one in Vermont, and it's a demand to get all the information on the voting file. And in that letter, in the announcement of that letter, the chief indicated an apprehension about the voting process being taken over by, quote, the left. Now, do you have any information with respect to Vermont about a takeover of the voting process by, quote, the left?
Senator, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. We are currently involved in voter roll lawsuits in 6 states. Is that what you're referring to?
No, there's a letter that went out demanding that states, including Vermont, provide all the voting file information,
right.
Includes personal information. But when that letter was sent out—
That's perfectly legal.
But there was an assertion by the chief in this division that this was to deal with the fact that the voting process has been taken over by the left. So we got one of those letters in Vermont. And my question to you is, what do you mean by the left? And do you have any evidence that the so-called system has been overtaken by the left?
We must have fair and free elections.
No, I know that. But I'm asking for the specific basis.
And we will have fair and free elections in this country. Okay, Senator, I'd be happy to talk to my chief. Who was it who said that?
It was your chief, which I assume you would know who that is. Here's the question here, okay? There is a point of view that is in dispute here about the fairness of elections. But you have the power as the as the Attorney General to use the authority of your office to make demands on states. And you did that with Vermont. That's within your right to do it. I'm not disputing your legal authority to do it.
Is Vermont disputing turning over the information to our office?
Vermont is. The Secretary of State is. And you can resolve that with her.
And we have every right to have that information.
Yeah, here's
Senator.
where I'm going.
Why wouldn't they want to turn it over?
You're a prosecutor with the awesome authority to make the decision that you're going to start an investigation against the state or against an individual. And I know from your experience as a county prosecutor and as the Attorney General in Florida, you took seriously that obligation to have a factual basis before you'd proceed, right?
Now picture the answers. Not denials, not defenses, just distance. That contrast is what made this moment matter. It wasn't about ideology or party branding. It was about whether the institutions we fund can give clear answers when the questions get uncomfortable. That's what unfolded when Senator Peter Welch questioned Attorney General Pam Bondi before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And one exchange in particular cut through the noise. Senator Welch pressed Bondi about a $50,000 transfer connected to Tom Homan. Welch asked directly, "Do you know where the $50,000 is?" Bondi's answer was equally direct, "I don't know." That's the moment that lands, not because of tone, not because of theatrics, because of what it represents to ordinary Americans. This wasn't a hypothetical. It wasn't a policy disagreement. It was a basic accountability question about money tied to a senior official, money that by Bondi's own admission cannot currently be accounted for. The explanation offered was procedural distance. It happened before her confirmation.
My office, and you just said that you have a Republican governor, so it doesn't make sense what you just said. We've asked that of every state, Senator.
Right, and I'm asking about Vermont and what the factual basis is, but we can move on. You've mentioned that you can't discuss pending litigation, and I think the committee by and large accepted that answer. But I did notice that you spoke at great length about pending litigation, specifically with respect to the questions Senator Cruz asked you about the sentencing of the Kavanaugh defendant. That's pending, right?
He was sentenced to 8 years.
I understand that, but that's on appeal, right?
We will be appealing.
Right, so that makes it pending litigation. So you made an exception with respect to the Cruz questions.
Hold on. No,
but you didn't answer any of the
things,
questions that you said were pending litigation from any of my colleagues.
Those were facts that came out at the sentencing hearing. You're welcome to see the transcript of the sentencing hearing
I understand
with all the
that.
gruesome details of what they threatened to do to Justice Kavanaugh and other justices.
I condemn what that person did.
That was the sentencing.
But the point here is that that's pending litigation. You indicated you're going to be appealing. It's your right to do that. And you would not, you use that justification to not answer many other questions.
Justification, you're an attorney, Senator.
Okay.
You realize that.
I do want to go back to Homan. You know, there's a tape, right, with Mr. Homan? I mean, first of all, is there a tape that has audio and video of the transfer of the $50,000?
You would have to talk to Director Patel about that.
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't know the answer, Senator.
Yeah, you do know the answer to that.
Don't call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar.
You just said I know the answer. I said I don't know the answer.
Well,
you have to talk to
Let
Director Patel. What I said is that investigation was closed.
If you don't know, why don't you know whether there was a tape and video?
Senator, I believe that was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General.
Do you think that it is of public interest for the people to know what happened to the $50,000 that the FBI turned over to Homan?
Did you hear what I just said? That was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. That's why I said I would not know.
It's not resolved. There's $50,000. Homan has it, or somebody has it. Do you have no interest in knowing where it is?
You're not going to sit here and slander Tom Homan. The FBI and Deputy Director Blanche said there was nothing.
I'm not slamming Tom Homan. He got the $50,000.
Tom Homan is doing, how do you know that? Tom Homan is doing a great job, as our borders are, keeping your border state safe. You're a border state.
Thank you, Senator Welch. We're going to
Madam President, could I have 1 minute?
Not right now. At the end, if you wait, we'll
point
talk
of
about
personal
it.
privilege?
Not right now.
The
Senator
witness
Tillis and many others have been waiting their turn.
I know,
so
but this
you
is
can
1
hold
minute,
until
and
the
it
end.
relates to testimony that she gave about me.
Senator Tillis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This exchange wasn't about personalities. It was about whether power is paired with curiosity or with comfort. When officials stop asking where the money went, the cost doesn't vanish. It just shifts quietly to the public. And that's the part worth paying attention to.
Senator Welch absolutely nailed it, and this is why Democrats are right to press hard. He didn't rant, he didn't grandstand. He asked basic, fundamental questions. Where is the evidence? Where did the money go? And Republicans had nothing. Not, we're investigating, not, here's the documentation, just, I don't know, and talk to someone else. That's not leadership, that's dodging. And let's be real about the hypocrisy. They scream non-stop about election integrity, claiming the system is taken over by the left, but when asked for actual proof, silence. No data, no facts, no specifics. Just vague fear-mongering. Yet at the same time, they're demanding sensitive voter data from states with zero clear justification. That's not protecting democracy, that's abusing power. Then it gets worse. A straight-up question about $50,000 tied to a senior official, and again, nothing. No curiosity, no urgency, no accountability. Imagine if a Democrat said, I don't know about missing money like that. Republicans would be losing their minds 24/7. But when it's their side, suddenly, it's, move along, nothing to see here. Welch exposed the core problem. Republicans want the authority of government without the responsibility that comes with it. They want to investigate everyone else, but refuse to answer even the most basic questions themselves. That's not transparency, that's a double standard, and it's exactly why Democrats have to keep pushing like this.